afternoon and welcome to CEC Gurukul lecture. In continuation with the series on sociology of religion, in today's lecture we are going to discuss about religion and science, the relation between religion and science as discussed in Durkheim's work, The Elementary Form of Religious Life. Before we go into the complex relation between religion and science, let us briefly understand Durkheim's theory of religion. And Durkheim's theory of religion is a functional theory. He is trying to do at a scientific study of religion by dividing the world into sacred and profane. Sacred are things which are set apart, which are of significance. It's a higher position than profane, and it is kind of practices which are considered as significant in the society. Whereas profane is something which is mundane, a routine, and of everyday consumption. For Durkheim, religion has to do with rites and practices related to the sacred. When he is talking about the sacred and the profane, he also tries to help us to understand that society is sacred. When he says society is sacred, it implies that society is at a higher position compared to individual, and therefore we treat it as God or something which has power, and it has a kind of a force which can keep the society together. And this understanding of the elementary form of religion, Durkheim arrived through his study of the Australian Aborigine, where he studied the totemism. In compared to animism and naturism, Durkheim argued that totemism is the most elementary forms of religious life. And totemism is the belief in totem. Totems were anything around plants, animals, which represented the clan. It was an identity of the clan, and this emblem or the image of the totem was put on all the places, on the utensils, outside the house, on the bodies of the men and women. And then he says that when we have this everyday understanding of the Australian Aborigine, he describes that it could be divided into two phases. A long phase when the people are engaged in everyday life, in the economic activity, agricultural activity, and then there is a smaller period. This smaller period is considered to be sacred because it's not everyday routine. The everyday routine is suspended. This is a time for celebration. This is a time for kind of get together, and it is during this when the people get together to celebrate, to dance, to enjoy. They all realize that this high activity, anxiety is coming from where? It's coming from the totem, which was to be seen on everyone's body, ingrained into their body. So this totemic principle, or the mana, which he terms as, is something which is kind of responsible for keeping the society together. And this collective consciousness, which is high when your society is celebrating, dancing, the identity of belonging to the family, the community is high, is where we have this understanding of religion. So religion for Durkheim is functional in maintaining the moral order of society. Now, this when we move towards his conclusion in the book The Elementary Forms of Religious Life, in this he kind of argues that religion and science are kind of more or less similar, and he considered religion as the most elementary idea coming in even prior to the science. So when we look into the theory of religion, he is kind of to keep in mind is a positivist, and he is applying a scientific method to study society. When we look into his theory of religion, he includes all the methodological keys which are kind of important to consider sociology as a science. So we have this positivist approach where sociology was to treat it as science. And what does it mean? It meant that something was out there, it could be observed, it could be compared, classified, and certain laws can be, generalized laws could be arrived at. And this was what Durkheim was doing through his study of the Australian Aborigine, the totemism among the Australian Aborigine. So Durkheim says the possibility of science of religion. Science of religion in the sense that he is understanding religion from a scientific perspective. And why is he saying that the science of religion is possible? Because in his theory he says that religion is not to do with illusion. Religion is not to do with supernatural. What is religion? Religion is something which is real, something which is true. It's out there. You can observe it. You can feel it. And that is why he is saying that a science of religion is possible. So in his functionalism, religion is the base for a scientific treatment. He is considering religion as representing reality. Religion is nothing but the society. So this reality is being understood, and it is therefore a debate between the real and the ideal. So for Durkheim, religion is out a social reality. Rather than debunking religion, science reveals that religion has always been transfigured respect in moral authority of social order. So as I've already said, that the entire function of religion is not in terms of kind of personifying an individual or kind of search for a truth, but it is only a way in which the moral order of the society can be maintained. So when he looks into the relation between science and religion, Durkheim has studied in two contexts. Number one is the method. And when we look into the method, as I have already said, he is applying a scientific method to the study of religion. And the study of religion is based on the view that sacred is a given, objective and external fact. So his theory of social fact is something which is external, something which has a binding force, and therefore religion is classified as a social fact, and they are kind of recognizable for its external manifestation. It kind of exerts a pressure on the society to adopt certain moral order, and that is why he is considering it as real. When we look into the subject matter is in terms of what is the function of religion, and function is in terms of production of knowledge and view of the world. It helps us to understand social reality. It helps us to live your life in a more ordered manner. In a different way, it helps us to kind of avoid chaos, disorder in society. And the more you have a better understanding of reality, only then you will be a part of it. So indirectly, it is increasing the knowledge of society. It has helped men to live to adapt the existing conditions. How can individual be a member of the society? They can be a member of the society only if they have a good understanding of the environment around them, the norms of the society, the values of the society. So in a way, it is also socializing individual to adapt and live their life in an ordered manner. When we look into the relations between science and religion, he says it has certain implications. And what are the implications? The implication number one is the possibility of developing substitute for religious source of moral solidarity. Durkheim rejects both a theist claim that religion is based on pure falsehood and superstition, as well as the religious fundamentalist claim that religion is literally true. So he is not kind of either giving us a atheist that everything is false. Then there is no reality. Then society in itself becomes false. He is also kind of negating the idea that religion is the only truth. So by doing that, he is kind of arriving at a mid path. It is neither a false and it is neither a completely truth which has nothing to do. It is everyday reality. It is helping you to kind of make sense of the society in which one is living. Durkheim also argues that scientific religion, no less that religion is rooted in social experience. Religious myth provided the earliest system of natural classification. The most fundamental notion of modern science have primitive religious origin. So this is very important. If we were to kind of understand whether science comes in first or religion, for Durkheim, religious idea is the most primitive idea. It is from the religious idea that science as a body of knowledge develops. Because why? Because religion is nothing but the society. So society has to come in, the members have to accept that reality, and only then the body knowledge can be created. Durkheim based on his study, arrives at a generalization that religion helps in raising collective consciousness. And this generalization is the fact that what he was found doing was only based on the study of the Australian Aborigine. Now, from this belief, the totemism, the idea that every individual has a totem, which is the point of arousal with the anxiety, the excitement. So, from there he kind of makes a sense that it is something to be found in every society. More or less it is kind of very true, because if we were to kind of compare the totem to a flag, to the national flag. Now the flag becomes a symbol around which the citizen of a particular nation are kind of having that collective consciousness, what you could be termed in political sociology as the idea of nationalism. So the idea that something is going to bind you together is a belief system. It's an idea, and that is what he kind of arrives at a generalization. Religion defined as natural in terms of lens of definite object, but the idea itself is not sufficient. It has to be understood through representation of idea through action or rites. Now you have this idea that the totem, or say for instance the national flag, is representative of a community. So after that we need to have a certain kind of an action or a behavior or practices, and that is that we accept the national flag as a representing or an identity of a nation. So that flag is kind of not to be used in everyday mundane way. It has a symbolic meaning, and it is hosted only when it is kind of representing that particular nation. So similarly, the idea of the Australian Aborigine is saying the idea that totem is a collective idea has to be represented through practice, and that is during religious celebration. When the entire clan comes together, it is the point of their celebrating being a member of the same clan, because every clan would have only one totem. Now when we look into the method of his study, as I already said, the scientific study of religion. And when we look into the what he is going to do, why does he study the Australian Aborigine? How does he arrive at what was the objective of his analysis? And that is to help us to think, enrich our knowledge, and this is also the function of science. So science is what? Is a body of knowledge, and it is helping us to increase our knowledge around a subject. If we are going to say that we are doing science, it is say increasing our knowledge around a machine or around a process. What is religion helping us do? Religion is helping us improve our understanding of the social reality. So in terms of the method or the subject, we see religion and science is similar. Religion functions to make our act collective and to help us live life according to norms of society. However, it is not kind of completely one and the same. There is a little difference. But then the difference does not mean that religion is inferior to science. And that is that the belief the primitive cannot be considered as irrational. And this we also talked when we were talking about Malinowski, that there is a certain kind of a Western hegemony where the primitive are considered to be irrational and the West is considered to be more rational because they are more doing scientific. But what is the fact is that both, whether it be in the Western society or the advanced industrial society or the primitive society, both the people, the members, are able to make sense of the social reality and live the existence. So the hierarchy between rational, irrational, scientific temper and religious temper is kind of problematic. Both religion and science based on idea and therefore should apply the same scientific method to its study. So since it is to do with reality, it is helping us to understand reality. For Durkheim, a scientific study of the religion was kind of prescribed. Religion plays the role of awakening moral life, binds the man of faith to his cult. It is this reality that makes him rise above himself. So when you have this understanding that there is a reality which is going to be everyone's reality, it's not only your individual reality. So individual will then sacrifice the individual needs and desire and be a part of the collective. Society can be felt only through action, and action is collective. So you have a group. How will you know that it is a community or it is a collective? Only when there is some kind of action which is done. And action is in, say, any kind of get together. For instance, if we have a celebration or number of people have gathered together, therefore they are all kind of engaging either in the same practice, or else if they are members from two different community or through two different collective, then there is a clash of ideas, there are clash of ideology. So it is not a collective. Action has to kind of follow the idea. So for Durkheim, first it is important to understand belief, which is idea. Once the belief is understood, then we follow to understand action, which is rights. All categories of thought, science and magic have their origin in religion. So he was kind of considering, I've said this earlier, that as the most elementary idea, and from religion emerges magic and science. If we were kind of look into Fraser, who was kind of telling us, he said magic is pseudoscience. So he said it was from magic to religion to science. But then Durkheim is not, he is very critical of Fraser, and he kind of even negates the idea that magic should be called as pseudoscience. Now, how do we look into religion as science? We have understood that we need a scientific study of religion. Both science and religion are talking about reality. Now, when we look into religion as science, then we see that it reflects on nature, man and society, attempts to classify things, relate them to another and explain them. As we've seen, even the most essential categories of scientific thought are religious in origin. So this whole idea is that what is science doing? Science is also trying to make sense of the nature, the relationship between men and society. It is classifying, observing and experimenting through experiment trying to understand reality. Religion is doing more or less the same. Scientific thought is more perfect form of religious thought, and Durkheim felt that later would gradually give away before the inexorable advance of the former, including those advances in the social sciences extending to the scientific study of religion itself. So both science and religion are kind of a part of a body of thought. It's a body of knowledge, and it kind of, there's a lot of debate between religion comes first, science comes first, but for Durkheim it is religion which gives way to science. Science is thus religious in its origin, but if religion is itself only the hypothesis of society, then all logical scientific thought originates in society. So there are two elements. One, he is saying that religious is the original, from there the science will emerge. But the second is, he is saying religion is society itself. So if religion is society, then from where is scientific thought emerging? It is emerging from society itself. All great social institutions were born out of religion. Religious forces are human forces. Why is he calling religious forces as human forces? Because of the fact that he is considering society as religion. And what is society? Society is a collection of individual where there is a realization or there is a we feeling, the fact that they belong to a particular society. So, the collective consciousness is organized, and this is the foremost trait of human being. So, he is saying to live in a collective, to live in a society, sacrificing your individual desire and living for the society is the most elementary idea that is kind of differentiates between human being and the other species. Society is religion. Ideas arise in society, therefore in religion. And that is why he is saying that science would kind of replace religion, but it is kind of emerging from the religious ideas only. Society from religion arises should be based on truth, idea based on reality. Now, he is not kind of advocating any particular truth, that this is the truth. What is he trying to talk about is that reality is truthful, and therefore, what is religion trying to help us is help us understand this reality which is truth. And what is the truth? The truth that we are members of the society, we need to acknowledge the positivity of the collectivity and respect the collectivity. So, society is not a social fact to be observed empirically. It is a fancy, a dream which men are living to fulfill their aspiration. Religion is realistic. There is no moral or physical vigilance, no vice. So, the whole idea is therefore to understand that religion is kind of a part of collective life, and it is the collective life that awakens religious thought. So, we kind of look into Durkheim's theory of understanding of religion in terms of the understanding of method, which is a scientific study of religion, and 2 is the subject, and the subject is in terms of the function of religion, and the function of religion is to maintain the moral order. And what is the moral order? The moral order is the collective. What is the collective? The collective is the society. So, society is religion and religion is society is the phrase which would kind of state the understanding of collectivity. And therefore, we see that what is he trying to advocate through was his desire to look into society as a moral force that restricts our instincts and our egoism. If we look into society as God, then we are going to curtail our own individual desire, our individual needs, and we will then serve for the collective. But that is what in the industrialized society, in an advanced scientific society is declining. The move is more towards the individual. Me, my needs, my desire, my dreams are more important. And this is why Durkheimian theory, we are moving away from religion. We are no longer considering society as sacred, and that is the result of lot of violence, lot of disorder, and lot of this kind of stress and strain. In order to bring back that order, religion becomes important. With this, I come to an end of today's lecture. Thank you.